Good morning and welcome to this edition of Sunday Special 60 Minutes with Psychiatry Teachers, a joint initiative of Indian Psychiatry Society Teachers Forum, IPS UG Subcommittee, IPS PG Subcommittee, and funded by Minds United for Health Sciences and Humanity Trust, or sponsored by the Infosys Foundation. Sunday Special Psychiatry program is unique because it allows psychiatry teachers across India to connect on the mutual interest of teaching and learning. This is a program which started a couple of years ago, and all videos are available in the YouTube channel Indian Teachers of Psychiatry nomenclature. In this edition, we have a very interesting and unique discussion on the curriculum, the teaching learning methodology, and other things related to subspecialty or super specialty of psychiatry, DMs, and postdoctoral fellowship across India. Without taking much time, I would now invite Dr. Sundarnag Ganjekar for the opening remarks. He is the additional professor of psychiatry at the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, NIMHANS, Bangalore, and he has special interest in perinatal psychiatry, and he has been associated with the postdoctoral fellowship and online distance learning program of perinatal psychiatry. In 2022 national program on the psychiatry education at NIMHANS, he gave presentation on how the curriculum and what kind of teaching learning is happening across India in relation to this, and based on his expertise, we requested him to be part of this program and to give the opening remark. Over to you, Dr. Sundar.
Thank you, Kishore. Good morning and welcome to the IPS Sunday Special 60 Minute in Psychiatry Teachers. So today we have two main speakers, Dr. Amit Singh from KGMU Lucknow and Sujita Kumar Kar from KGMC Lucknow. So to begin with, to give a kind of a platform. So IPS conducted the national CME on psychiatry faculty training on postgraduate CBME on 22nd November 2022. So there was one talk on CBME for super specialty in psychiatry. So which Dr. Amit is going to talk maybe critically. So one of the critics about the super specialty, is that whether are we commercializing that term, super specialty? So just like superstar, supermodel, supermarket, and now we have super specialty here. So are we commercializing that? So correct me if I'm wrong, the super specialization in the psychiatry started first time in KGMU. That is, both the speakers are from the same university on geriatric mental health. I think it was started around 2005 or 2005, the department has started, and maybe 2006 they have started the DM course in geriatric mental health. Subsequently, I think the NIMHANS has started the first DM course in child and adolescent psychiatry, then de-addiction addiction medicine, and subsequently most of the INIs, AIMS, PGI has started DM courses in child and adolescent psychiatry, addiction medicine. NIMHANS has even started DM in forensic psychiatry, but right now it is only for the sponsored candidate. Till now nobody has joined. So one of the question is whether competency-based medical education needs to be applied to super specialty courses. So what is that existing model which teaching model which we are using in DM courses in psychiatry, psychiatric subjects? Say, even if you look at the NIMHANS website, it doesn't provide what curriculum they are following, especially say if you are looking at child and adolescent psychiatry. But PGI has, they have very much given everything about their curriculum. It's there in the website. You can go through that. So the existing curriculum is mainly a subject centered, means a trainee centered, and it is very time limited. Say for example, no, there is a particular amount of posting in pediatrics, particular amount time posting in community. So it is a time limited, and there are a lot of teaching learning activities expected to the trainees to undergo. And finally the evaluation process is more of summative. There is a semester wise assessment trainee has to perform in the theory as well as in practical exams. So the as well as some of the universities do follow something called feedback system, in a day-to-day basis, in a monthly, the report from the department goes to the dean's office regarding the performance of the candidate. Many times these feedback systems are not, they are more of informal rather than very formal. But if we look at, competency-based medical education, they use the term competency. We all know that it's the ability of professionals which can be observed. It can be observed skills, observed values, observed attitudes, and everything is outcome based. So you are expected to show this much of outcomes, and these outcomes they classify as entrustable professional activities, okay, which helps to bridge the theory and practice especially in the competency-based medical education. So there is a kind of a list of entrustable professional activities which the trainee or the DM student is supposed to achieve. And so whatever he achieves, they are given statements of awarded responsibilities. Whether this statement of awarded responsibility, is it a new concept or a kind of created a new acronym for the old concept, it's a kind of a debate. Okay, so say for example, it's a night duty as entrustable professional activity. So if the trainee has to receive the statement of awarded responsibility for night duty, then what is that he needs to achieve, those milestones? The competency-based medical education is learner-centered, and there is a lot of flexibility of time. Say if we look at the existing system, it's time limited, where here we have a lot of time flexibility, and the learning is they break down into the cognitive learning, that is the knowledge, affective learning, and the kind of skills, that is the psychomotor learning. So there are a lot of challenges, even say in undergraduation, a lot of challenges which have faced to implement CBME. Maybe we might face much more challenges when we try to implement CBME in super specialty. Whether is it accepted by the main stakeholders, that is the trainee as well as the faculty members? Whether what about the comprehension of the term competency itself? So say there are changes in the learning teaching methods. So there will be a paradigm shift from the existing assessment method of summative assessment method to a different method. And it also expects that there should be a lot of infrastructure, material, workforce required. So these are all challenges which some of these things were discussed in the first CME, which was discussed in St. John's Medical College. So without wasting much time, now I would like to invite Dr. Amit Singh. He is an awardee of Must Enrich grant to talk on rise of sub or super specialization in psychiatry, a new endeavor in India. Over to Dr. Amit.
Thank you, Dr. Sundar. So I'll proceed with my presentation, which I have prepared for this meeting. So let me share the screen. Is the presentation visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, Amit.
So I will be talking on the rise of super specialization in psychiatry, a new endeavor in India. I have been chosen for ITOPS must enrichment grant for this research, and this has been the topic of my research. The mentors I have been, the guides and mentors I have been assigned was Dr. Sujita Kumar Kar, sir is here, and Kishore sir. So I would like to acknowledge the Minds United Trust and the Indian Teacher of Psychiatry for selecting me. So talking about the topic, psychiatry is evolving, and there are new changes occurring regularly in the field of psychiatry. There has been a recent surge in the super specialization or say sub-specialization courses in the past 2 decades in psychiatry. There are already 3-year specialization courses in place, that is the DM courses in addiction psychiatry, child and adolescent psychiatry, geriatric psychiatry, and forensic psychiatry. Besides, there are also 1-year postdoctoral fellowship courses are there in more than 15 areas of psychiatry, including addiction, child and adolescent psychiatry, and so on. So these courses are envisaged to help in capacity building of psychiatrists in specific areas of psychiatry through specialized training. However, concerns are often raised regarding a rise in the number of super specialization courses, citing that there is a lesser number of psychiatrists to manage all kinds of psychiatric cases, meaning to say that there is a if people will choose for select these specialization courses or pursue these courses, then there will be a lesser number of general psychiatrists. Also, some people say that starting new course is just a trend that psychiatry is blindly following. So there has been a lack of consensus regarding course duration, pattern of course curriculum, exit examination, and mandatory research, whether it should be research should be mandatory or not. So there is a need to understand the requirement of super specialization courses in psychiatry and their structure in the Indian context. So objective for this, the objectives which I have kept for this study was to understand the perspectives of psychiatry students and psychiatrists from India on the need of sub or super specialization courses in psychiatry. The second objective was to explore the structural components of the curriculum for super specialization courses in India. This was a cross-sectional survey of psychiatrists and students pursuing psychiatry as a career. The sample size estimated was 148. The survey was administered online through Google Form, and the sampling method was convenience and snowball sampling. The inclusion criteria was all the participants who are willing to provide consent, age more than 18 years, were selected for participation. Psychiatrists and students pursuing psychiatry as a specialty or super specialty course outside India were not included. They were excluded from the final analysis. And also, they were although their responses were recorded, but they were not considered to be part of this study. Procedure. The survey was circulated using personal contacts and personal and professional networks. The participants consenting to participate were required to provide details regarding academic profile, work profile, and experience. Their opinions and suggestions were sought on the various aspects of the super specialization courses in psychiatry. Now the results we found were the median. There were 142 in total, 142 responses, and the median age of the participants was 34, with interquartile range 30 to 40, 30 and 40. Most of the participants were between age below the age 60 years. 38 participants were equal to or less than 30 years, and 100 participants were from the age group 31 to 60 years. The predominant males were the most of the majority of the participants were male, 64.1%. About the level of education, most majority of the participants were having a qualification of MD in psychiatry. Besides, 24 participants were having DM qualification. 32 participants were currently, at the time of this survey, were pursuing any of the above courses, the diploma, MD, DNB, fellowship, DM, and PhD. So 32 participants were still pursuing the course. Regarding the years of experience practicing in psychiatry, 62 participants were reported to have less than 5 years of experience. 60 participants had 6 to 15 years of experience, and 20 participants have had 16 or more than 16 years of experience. 47, that is 33.1% of the participants were still pursuing these courses. 42% of the participants were either teacher or faculty in a government or private medical institutions. 7.7% participants were non-teaching or non-faculty, were holding non-teaching or non-faculty post in government or private medical institution. 16% were working in corporate sector or private were there in private practice, and only a single participant reported to be working in some other healthcare setting. So when asked about whether they're working in an institute running sub or super specialty course in psychiatry, 38% of the participants reported yes, and 62% reporting no. When asked about whether they were engaged in running these super specialty courses, then only 16 participants reported to be actually engaged in running these super specialty or subspecialty courses. 38 participants reported not to be directly involved in running these courses. So regarding their involvement in running super specialty courses, most of the participants were from addiction psychiatry, followed by geriatric mental health and child psychiatry. Regarding the teaching learning methodology utilized for the courses being offered at their institution, when asked, a lot of teaching learning methods were enumerated, were reported to be used there for teaching learning. However, predominantly it was the seminars, journal clubs, case presentations, and bedside clinics. These are the teaching learning methods commonly employed in those institutions, in their institutions, with more than 50% participants reported using these methods. Besides didactic lectures, tutorials, group discussions or focus group discussion, demonstrations and role play were also used. However, in 50 or less than 50% of participants reported the use of these teaching learning methods in their institutions. When asked about the assessment methods used for subspecialty courses, almost 96% participants reported the use of written exam was conducted for assessment of practical exams. Logbooks were reported, logbooks and thesis were reported by about 80% of the participants, and periodic assessment, sort of formative assessment, reported by around 70% of the participants. So these percentages were calculated out of the 48 valid responses which we found in the survey. With regard to the perceived need of sub or super specialized courses in psychiatry, when this is the response of all the 142 participants, and here we can see that there is people have reported that there is some sort of need in all the areas, the super specialization areas. They felt that there is a still there is a need for further exposure. So be it child and adolescent psychiatry, addiction psychiatry, geriatric psychiatry, perinatal psychiatry, psychosexual disorders, brain stimulation, psychotherapy, forensic psychiatry, community psychiatry, CL psychiatry, emergency psychiatry. So based on their responses, we tried to elicit their perceived need. How many participants perceive that there is a good and intense need for further exposure to different domains in psychiatry? So we recorded their responses on this 5-point Likert scale, and the good and intense need that was reported were calculated. So 68.3% of the participants reported that there is a still good and intense need for further exposure in child and adolescent psychiatry. It was followed by addiction psychiatry and psychotherapy. It was subsequently followed by geriatric psychiatry, psychosexual disorders, and so on. But the child and adolescent psychiatry lead this chart. Regarding the course formats suggested to be appropriate for subspecialties, the responses were recorded on this on 6 areas, like none needed, or if they want a 6-month on-site certification course, or if they feel like 6-month online certificate course will be more useful, or if postdoctoral fellowship of 1 year will be more useful, or 3-year DM course will be more useful. So this has been the course format suggested to be the most appropriate. So these are the other specialties in which the responses were recorded. So what we found that in child and adolescent psychiatry, the first choice of the respondents or participants was 1-year PDF course. It was followed by DM course. In addiction psychiatry, again, it was 1-year PDF course, and the second choice was 3-year DM course. So we can see that most of the participants felt like 1-year PDF courses are they may be most appropriate for exposure in these subspecialties, in geriatric psychiatry, psychosexual disorders, or consultation liaison psychiatry, neuromodulation or brain stimulation, emergency psychiatry, or perinatal psychiatry. This was followed by the forensic psychiatry and forensic psychiatry and community psychiatry. The respondents found a 6 months on-site certificate course to be more appropriate, followed by 1-year PDF courses. So different people have found all the different courses that were suggested to be useful, and even they suggested many more course formats from their side. However, this was definitely the responses were definitely guided by the amount of exposure a person wants in that field. So the availability of courses in different formats and of different time durations may be useful for different subsets of participants. So they were asked that, do you think that some other course or course format will be more useful or useful? So there were 141 responses. The other courses or course formats suggested were like 2 to 3 days on-site workshops, 1 to 3 month on-site courses, 6 month certificate courses in a variety of sub areas. So in the fields like addiction psychiatry and child and adolescent psychiatry, where already there are fellowships and DMs, even 6 month certificate course were recommended by lot many participants. Similarly, 1 year fellowship course was suggested to be useful by many of the participants in a variety of fields, in psychotherapy, spiritual psychotherapy, personality disorders, OCD, schizophrenia, and a lot other domains were suggested to be suggested by the participants, so that they can gain further exposure to these subspecialties. Similarly, 2 year courses were also suggested, and 3 years DM course was, for psychotherapy was also suggested by participants. With regard to the teaching learning methods, which were suggested to be useful, didactic lectures, seminars, tutorials, group discussions, journal clubs, bedside clinics, demonstrations, case presentations, and clinical exposure. So these are all suggested by more than 50% of the participants to be useful. However, we should also keep in mind that most of these responses are also like guided by the teaching learning methods which the participant has undergone, because the CBME has only recently been introduced. The emphasis on lot many newer teaching learning methods is still very new. So many of the participants might not have undergone, or they may have not been trained through those teaching learning methods. So this response may be biased because of that. So when asked about about the teaching learning methods, single participants reported that exposure to policy making and institute running the services in various formats is also needed. Then supervised tele sessions of 10 cases in 1 year, supervision and directed learning were also reported as teaching learning methods to be useful. Regarding the suggested formative assessment method, again, the case-based viva or practical assessment, demonstration of skills learned, periodic MCQ-based examination, case-based discussions. So the traditional methods of assessment has been suggested by most of the participants. This again, as I have discussed, that because other formative assessment methods and the emphasis on formative assessment in a structured manner is only new in the course curriculum. So the responses were quite skewed because of the participants' own experiences. With regard to the methods, the methods for evaluation, preferred methods, the online, the thesis, thesis or research, theory examination, practical examination, and internal assessments. They were all, which is already been done in most of the institutes for 3-year courses, were reported to be useful. So not many new assessment methods were suggested. With regard to the 1-year courses, again, thesis, publication, multiple choice questions, theory, practical, and internal assessment were found to be appropriate methods for assessment. With regard to certificate courses, the emphasis was mainly on multiple choice questions, some on-site practical examinations, some sort of timely internal assessments, and some theory examination. People also suggested some short-term projects for fellowships and 6 months courses. So when asked about anything else for final evaluation, again, people have suggested many things. They emphasized the assessment of ethics, morality, passion, attitude, aptitude, and communication skills to be evaluated. Now, these things are now have gotten a lot more emphasis in the newer CBME curriculum. So this was suggested by many of the participants. Paper presentation, open evaluation of thesis or research by person from different fields, short projects for 6 months and 1 year course was suggested. Then presenting a topic, case-based discussions for complicated scenarios, patient feedback, logbook or portfolio, demonstration of clinical skills and teaching skills, and presentation of case which was managed by training for a period of at least 6 months. These are various suggestions of the participants for final evaluation. Now, this study had some limitations. The sample size was small, and there is a limited participation of the people who are actually involved in running these super specialization courses. So many of the private practitioners have also suggested, they have given responses. So those who are in private practice may not have a regular involvement in teaching learning. So we should be cautious about we should take these results should be taken with caution. Now, concluding, this survey helped us gain perspective regarding the need for sub or super specialization courses in psychiatry and the appropriate duration of the courses and structural components of the curriculum. This research can be used by institutions across India to refer to and seek guidance while drafting the super specialization courses in psychiatry in India. So during this during this study, I have also gaining from the knowledge knowledge and responses of the people, their understanding helped me to sort of try to initiate a fellowship course, and a fellowship course in addiction psychiatry has been approved in my institute. The newer teaching learning methods which are yet to be used in formally, there have been no curriculums which were suggested by NMC in with regard to super specialty courses apart from geriatric psychiatry. So we will try to use those assessment teaching learning methods and assessment methods for both formative and summative assessment. However, these newer teaching learning methods, they are in use in child and adolescent psychiatry or psychogeriatrics courses which are being run in UK. So they can be some valuable resources to get an idea about what all these newer teaching learning methods can be employed in while running these super specialization courses. So that's all for my presentation. I hand over to Dr. Sundar.
Hi. So our second talk by interaction with the guide by Sujita Kumar. We'll take up the questions in the last. Sujit, over to Sujit.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Sundar. I sincerely acknowledge the contribution and support of ITOPS and Minds United Trust for supporting this survey. And before I talk about this project that we carried out in our own department for taking the ethical approval, why we thought of this topic? Because Dr. Amit Singh was selected for this Minds Enrichment grant, Minds United Enrichment Research Grant. And Dr. Amit Singh completed his DM and joined this as a faculty in the department, and he continued the addiction treatment clinic in the department. If you continue the addiction treatment clinic, you only provide the clinical care, but you have the ability, you got the specialized training from a premier institute, and you are working in a premier institute where you can start a course, you can train the residents, you can develop a super specialty course, and you can carry out some of the research in this particular field. For that, by doing this, you can use the skills optimally, whatever the addiction specific skills that you have acquired, you can use it optimally. So for that reason, we thought that we are planning, Dr. Amit was planning to start a fellowship course at least in the department. So when we were talking to different institutes, many institutes, premier institute, they run specifically AIMS, the KGH, Chandigarh, NIMHANS, Bengaluru. They are running super specialization or subspecialization courses in psychiatry, 1-year fellowship courses and 3-year DM courses. What we realized that there is a definitely there is a super specialty or subspecialty course, but there is no clear-cut defined curriculum. If at all there is a curriculum, that is not uniform across the institutes. Some institutes, they have thought that this is the important thing that need to be delivered during the course, and they develop the course accordingly. Another institute may have a different thought about the components of the course, so they run it in a different way. Again, the assessment that person who is enrolled in that course, when that person completes the course, what should be the mode of assessment? There is some amount of uniformity when we see about DM courses. There is a practical examination, there is a theory examination, there is a thesis evaluation, and there are some structure to the assessment. But when we talk about the fellowship courses, there is no uniformity in terms of the mode of assessment is being done across the institutes. And there is also no uniformity in terms of the components of the course, particularly if it is a fellowship course. So it is more of a institution-specific design of that course. And if at all there is a design, that is not documented design. So it is all about, since last 3 years we are running this course and we are following this format, but it is nowhere written. It is only about the experts or the faculties who say that we follow this format, but it is not documented in any website, or there is no. So we thought of knowing what is the format that is existing for the super specialty courses, and who are those people who actually feel a need for super specialization course, and why there is a need. If at all there is a super specialization course, what should be the mode of assessment? That clarity need to have, because many premier institutes, they have the liberty to start the super specialty courses because they are out of the purview of MCI or MNC. But in a general hospital psychiatry setting, where for starting a super specialty course, you need to take permission from MNC and you need to have some other requirements. So for that understanding, for that clarity, uh, we plan to conduct this study. And I had one vested interest in this project. Like Dr. Amit was planning to start the super specialization course, particularly fellowship course in addiction psychiatry. And my area of interest was in neuromodulation. So I clubbed my interest with Amit's research work. Whether what is the view of Indian psychiatrists or Indian psychiatric trainees about the need of having a super specialization of fellowship course in neuromodulation. So we decided to carry out this idea in a small survey format for doing the research, and this was duly supported by Dr. Kishore and the team that this can be a good idea if you are planning to start a super specialization of fellowship course in the department. Particularly, there are some unique challenges in the general hospital setting. So it is better to carry out a survey and to know this. And before that, you need to be aware that similar kind of survey was already been conducted by Indian Psychiatry Society by a team of researchers. So there should be something new in this survey. And whether we are not getting any information, lacking any information in the previous research, that also need to be addressed in that survey, in this survey. So accordingly, we decided this survey to what need to be incorporated in the assessment format during the survey, and we took the ethical approval. Finally, we conducted the survey. As a part of this survey, what I realized that it's very difficult to carry out the online surveys nowadays, particularly after this COVID pandemic. A lot of surveys are happening and people are not responding to the surveys and the questionnaires. Even if the survey is of a shorter duration, 5 to 10 minutes duration, people are not willing to participate in these surveys. A lot of surveys are happening. We try to communicate persons personally in different conferences, different CMEs, and different academic groups. Personally, we send reminders to them. Personally, we send to different departments, faculties of different psychiatry departments to circulate the questionnaire among their contacts. Finally, despite of all those repeated reminders, the response, what we are expecting that we should get at least, we have 10,000 psychiatrists in India, and a lot of groups are related to psychiatry are existing. So we thought of getting good number of responses, but unfortunately, despite of multiple rounds of approach, we ended off with a sample of 142 only. So which is a major limitation of this survey, because it is not a true representative of the Indian psychiatrist population. Again, because whatever responses we got, most of the people are through our, they either know directly or indirectly through close contacts. So
Did we lose the connection of Dr. Sujit?
I think so. We lost Sujit.
Dr. Sundarnag, you can take over.
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, Sujit.
Sujit is back.
I think we lost Dr. Sujit again.
I mean, still there logged in.
Locked in, but I think I could see that even the light behind Amit has gone.
There has been a power cut.
Yeah, no, in the same institution, you stay in the same institution, right? Yeah. Okay. Should we take up this question without wasting much time? So, till Amit he joins in, then shall we take up this question? There is one question by Dr. Prasad. Maybe Amit can. So how does the approach of DM guide differ from that of MD guide? It is more, the question is directed to Sujit actually. Because
Sir,
you can.
I have not, I do not have any experience being a DM guide. However, while I was a DM resident, I can say that my DM guides were more of a mentor to us rather than and that should be true for MD guide also. But it was more of a mentorship role of DM guides while I was pursuing my DM course. So they would let us know what are the key things that has to be done, and it was predominantly based on their guidance we used to do. There was lesser of a hand holding from my DM guides compared to when I was a MD resident. So that was one difference. Besides, there was a more of a focus on leadership role while I was pursuing my DM, rather than in while I was doing my MD. It was more of a learn more of a clinical skills. So that was something which was different in this DM course, and that was something which my DM guides sort of pushed me to pursue.
So thank you, Amit. I think you have given the perspective from the trainee side.
Yes.
Okay. So see, one more thing. If I look at, say, how the CBME is, the fee, they have made it like we need to define the interestable professional activity for, say, as a thesis is concerned. Okay, and then so what are those interestable professional activities? Whether into different, say in terms of say sample collection or sample size calculation, or say writing the writing skills, then writing the result part, or the discussion part. Divide them into different types of interestable professional activities and then grade them based on the stars. So that's how I have understood. If any other thoughts are there, I think we have Mohan Isaac sir, who has joined, who was there in that CME in St. John's as well. Sir, you have any other thoughts on that?
Thank you very much. Nothing in particular. I agree with. See, my own thoughts about guideship, guiding anybody, is that a guide is a guide. He is a person who shows the way. He is a person who advises. So you can be a guide for a graduate student at an MBBS, where you are more like a mentor, because the study curriculum is much better established. When you come to MD, the guide term is used more with reference to the research protocol and the research thesis that you're supposed to submit. So the guide is somebody who helps you choose a topic, then go through that research, helping you in the research methodology, etc. So when you come to postgraduate, it's further, specialization. So the guide has to be somebody who has more expertise in that specialized area, be it addiction, be it child psychiatry. So he's somebody who has worked for much longer time. But the basic core of what a guide does is the same. He advises, he shows the way. A guide simply in English language means a guide is somebody who shows the way. And that is what you do, whether you are doing MBBS or PhD or you're not DM or MD. So that is my response to, the question, what is the difference between an MD guide and a DM guide? In fact, as it would happen in many places, such as Amit was saying that he has guided perhaps MD students, but not DM. But Sujita is probably guiding MD as well as DM because KGMC is one of the centers where they have DM courses. So you have special expertise in an area where you're guiding, who is doing the DM in that particular area. Otherwise, the guiding is all the same. This is my own thought. I had a couple of comments about this whole topic. I wanted to respond on two things. One is, of course, the super speciality, subspeciality. In fact, KGMC is one of the centers, or perhaps the first center, which in a way paved the way for super specialization, or as some people would like to call it, subspecialization in the field of psychiatry. Because much before PGI or AIMS or NIMHANS came out with any DM course, it was KGMC which started a DM course in geriatric psychiatry. For people who have worked long enough in KGMC, I'm talking about the senior staff, would know how it came about, what was the background. Was it that there were a lot of geriatric problems in UP? In fact, no, because the geriatric problems as of today, even today, in 2023, if you look at the demographics and the geriatric problems, as far as psychiatry is concerned, it's much more in South, people above the age of 80 and 90, etc. So why was it that the DM psychiatric course was started in KGMC? As it happens, there are historical reasons for any of these things. I think, if I remember right, it was in 2010 or 2011, Dr. Tiwari started a separate geriatric center, etc. Subsequently, around the same time, the first DM in child psychiatry. So at that time, the popular thinking was, if at all you are going to start a DM, the need in the country is in child psychiatry, maybe addiction, then comes geriatrics. Even today, the geriatric population in the country, of course, I'm not negating the importance of geriatric psychiatry, but as compared to a lot of other countries, it's only 8 or 9% of India's population who are above the age of 60 or 65. It is rapidly rising. So the first child psychiatry DM was started in NIMHANS. And again, 2010, 2012, and subsequently PGI AIMS, and then addiction came. So around the time in the mid 2010s, there was a debate. Do we need this? Is it good? No, there were also debate about, should we call it super specialization or subspecialization? Many people told that this is not super specialization, but it is subspecialization of psychiatry. In fact, there were papers in the Indian Journal of Psychiatry which debated about this. There were also arguments that India is still at that time. Now, of course, we have many more psychiatrists because many centers have started postgraduate training in psychiatry. But at that time, 2014-15, when DM started, the number of general psychiatrists were not adequate. So many people said, oh, this is not improper planning, not proper growth. First, we should have enough psychiatrists, then only. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that. I still remember one of my very senior colleagues, Dr. Shyam Sundar from NIMHANS, wrote a letter to the editor in the Indian Journal of Psychiatry, where he talks about the whole is much more perfect than the part. I mean, in other words, the same debate can be talked about in general medicine. What is the role of the general practitioner as compared to the various specialists? I'm not going into the details of that. But I want to also say that this kind of debates always occur. Because when I was doing my MD TPM in the maths in 1974-75, that was a time when DM, unlike in psychiatry, we are now talking about DM, postdoctoral fellowship, etc., in various subspecialty areas. That was the time, in the early 70s was the time when DM in cardiology, DM in nephrology, DM in neurology, etc. was started. Similar kind of debate was there. For example, in NIMHANS, the DM in neurology was started. And the head of the department of neurology was Dr. K.S. Mani, the late Dr. K.S. Mani, my own teacher. He was only an MD general medicine with some training in neurology. Similarly, when DM psychiatry was started, DM child psychiatry was started, Shobha Srinath in NIMHANS was only an MD in psychiatry, but she had gained expertise working in that area. Similarly, people, Dr. K.V. Johnny was the DM nephrology in CMC Vellore. He didn't have a DM nephrology. He had trained himself in nephrology. So these kinds of debates occur. So the point I'm trying to make is this kind of survey is very worthwhile. And we have got some information about it. But the other point that I wanted to mention is what Sujita was talking about. When you do these kinds of surveys, now what is the opinion that we are getting? He said, we have now thousands of psychiatrists, only 142 was the response rate. Now, this response rate again is probably Amit's friends, Sujita's friends, maybe Kishore's friends, maybe people are friends of this, or somebody writes to you, you have an obligation, and then you respond. So is it the true picture? That is a question mark. He has already raised this as a limitation. Now, the other point I would like to make is, for quite some more time, survey research would be the main way of people doing research at the basic level. Now, one of the Sujita also mentioned that most people don't want to respond to surveys. Why is that? One is there is an overload of surveys. I myself will get at least 4 or 5, not psychiatric surveys, but you have gone and stayed in a hotel, there is a survey. Oh, how was the service? Was this good? Was that? You don't. It's become a kind, or you have traveled in something, they will send you a survey. So you're bombarded with this kind of survey. So you don't know which is the real one and which is the one which can be trivialized. This is one reason. So the question is, how can you make your survey interesting so that people who get the letter, not your friends, not people who will anyway respond, but other people. And that is where the trick is. You have to say why this is. In very short 3, 4, 5 sentences, you will have to convey how your survey is different from other surveys. It is not, I'm not doing this just for me to send a paper and publish in the Indian Journal of Psychiatry. I genuinely want to know. This is the need for us to know because we have to plan. So how to make surveys interesting is a challenging thing because survey research will be the way in which a lot of information will be collected. But no survey is worth its merit unless you know what the sample is. What is the proportion? What was the total number that you targeted? And what percentage of the targeted number did you get response from? Was it 10%? Was it 15%? Was it 50%? This is the same when you do a mental health survey also. So these were some of my thoughts, but it is very good. It gives you some ideas, gives you some general kind of notions about what people think. I personally still have this doubt to whether you should call it a super specialty or subspecialty. And in my own thinking, the one which definitely requires this kind of a thing in India is child psychiatry. Because the growing number of children with problems, even if you go through the EIPS, people are talking about ADHD and autism, overdiagnosis. Child psychiatry, there is a definite need. Perhaps then addiction. And the other things are, of course, I'm not saying they are not important, but in terms of, the questions which comes to one's mind is there a demand for that kind of subspecialty? From using that perspective, child psychiatry, definitely yes. Employability, will these people continue to work as general psychiatrists or will they work as a specialist? And there are a number of such questions, which come up. I will end here. This is the danger that if you ask me to speak, I will not speak with 1 or 2 sentences. I will say whatever I wanted to say. Thank you very much for asking me to talk.
Thank you, sir. As you told, some of these starting of the courses have some kind of stories, behind that. So it is very important to know what those stories are, behind starting. And interestingly, the Amit study has shown that there is a lot of interest in psychotherapy. So, many people have told that we need specialization courses in psychotherapy. So it is an interesting finding, Amit. Let us take the second question. Bharti has asked, what are the requirements in the Department of Medical College running MD courses to start fellowship courses? Actually, I think Kishore has written that so the department has to apply for PG board. It's called BOS, Board of Studies. So of that particular university regarding the course, you need to give curriculum, you need to provide what are the different teaching learning methods you use, and then the what are the evaluation process for and as Mohan sir was mentioning, the employability is also an important once they are outside, once they passed out, what they are going to do. So that's also an important question. As a teacher, we need to keep that in mind when we plan to start anything. So now I will hand it over to Minds. There is Kishore. It's almost we have crossed the timeline. Thank you, Sujit, for we lost you in between. So, but thank you for your talk, as well as Dr. Amit.
Thank you so much, sir. Actually, there was a power cut, so
Yeah.
I have to connect to my mobile. Sorry
Yeah.
for the.
We could able to realize, the light behind Amit has gone. So,
Yeah.
and it was simultaneous in both
Yes,
for
sir.
you. Kishore?
First is that the discussion went very fruitful, and for the first time, there is some document which has been carefully evaluated in postdoctoral fellowship and DM courses and subspecialty related to psychiatry. So I believe that we also have the data about what teaching learning methodologies are happening in this institution, what kind of assessments are being tried. Even though the data is limited, it gives for the first time some document about what is being there. I believe everybody's opinion and Mohan Isaac's view, how is it is being carried out and what are the stories behind this is interesting. So without wasting much time, as we are on time, if there are no further questions and comments, we will close the session with due regards to Dr. Sundarnag, who took up this task and facilitated this, to Amit, who made this very interesting study from the Must Enrich grant, to Dr. Sujita Kumar, who guided him all through the study. So we will close on time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.